Field of 68 After Dark.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM. I'm Dalen Cuff. Great to be with you guys. Michael LaTulip, Norm Roberts, and Mitch Gilfillan is joining us today. Mitch will get into some legal stuff here as we have the James Nagy controversy continues to rage within college basketball. I have to tell you guys real quick, I hope you're enjoying the holiday season. Hope you're having fun. I apologize for my visual setup right now. I mean, I know my wife is covering a college football playoff game. I don't think you need the computer and the iPad, babe. Like, I don't know whatever technology I'm left with right now, guys. I'm sorry. We're all going to endure this. We're going to figure it out. But I digress. We're going to get to a lot of hoops here. Seton Hall, great comeback win on the road against Marquette. We'll talk Creighton, about to get their fourth straight win. UNC over FSU. We'll go through the ACC. We'll go through some Big East stuff and some other games. But as I mentioned before, with James Nagy being eligible and playing for Baylor, former 2023 31st overall draft pick. If you're watching the show, I'm sure you know who he is, and that he will be playing for Baylor and Scott Drew. The news, though, moving it forward today is Charlie Baker came out with a statement today kind of discussing this in a broader sense, if you will. Guys, will you pop that up here, and we'll make sure everybody has a chance to kind of take this in. The NCAA is not and will not grant eligibility to and prospective or returning student athletes who have signed an NBA contract, including a two-way contract, as schools are increasingly recruiting individuals with international league experience. The NCAA is exercising discretion in applying the actual necessary expenses by law to ensure that prospective student athletes with experience in American basketball leagues are not at a disadvantage compared to their international counterparts. Rules have long permitted schools to enroll and play individuals with no prior collegiate experience mid-year. Okay, he goes on to say, while the NCAA has prevailed on the vast majority of eligibility-related lawsuits, recent outlier decisions enjoining the NCAA on a nationwide basis from enforcing the rules that have been on the books for decades without even having a trial are widely destabilizing. I will be working with Division I leaders in the weeks ahead to protect college basketball from the misguided attempts to destroy this American institution. A lot there to unpack. And, Mitch, that's the main reason why you're here. Not here to regale us with tales of beating Columbia in your Lehigh days. We don't need to hear any more about that. The other guys already heard that off air. Let's get into the kind of the crux of the issue here is where this thing goes forward. And when you read that statement from Charlie Baker, there's a lot of legalese in there. There's a lot of big comments toward the end. What did you distill out of what he was saying in that comment?
Yeah, thanks, Dalen. Thanks, guys, for having me on here. And I think the statement today was needed. It was necessary. And given the climate that we're currently in right now, it needed to be heard, not only from the NCAA fan base, but really for coaches, for players, for everybody to kind of, in some ways, relax, breathe, and digest what is happening here. The language that was used was intentional. I think Charlie Baker did a good job of at least portraying what the overall message is and limiting NBA players essentially coming down without any ramifications or just simply coming back to the NCAA. The key phrase, though, that he uses, which I think is important to discuss, is he says the NCAA is exercising discretion in applying the actual necessary expenses by law. So what does that mean? My job as a day-to-day lawyer, as a former college basketball coach and former basketball player, is to apply what bylaws mean and how they impact coaches, how they impact players. And obviously eligibility is at the forefront right now in college sports. Exercising discretion is the key phrase there. We are on a case-by-case basis as to what's going on in college basketball and obviously in other college sports as well. For the Baylor example, this is different than a lot of others. And the actual and necessary expenses, I think, is the component the NCAA used to analyze whether or not he would become eligible and be able to come back down. Notably, about 15 years ago, Enes Kanter from Kentucky had a similar issue, and he wanted to play at the collegiate level, but it was deemed that he actually did use actual and necessary expenses above and beyond what the NCAA would allow, to the tune of approximately $30,000, which disqualified him from playing. So every case is unique and every case is different. That's what the NCAA is evaluating these on.
Mike, Norm, if you have something to say, I'll follow up here with just one other thing. When you say so, but every coach, we want rules. I mean, Norm will speak to this in more in depth, and you, former coach too, both of you guys. you want things to understand what we're going to be able to do and how we build our team. So if you're telling me case by case, and if this guy was played in the G League, played overseas, I mean, that's six-figure dollars likely overseas. I don't know his contract situation necessarily, but playing for Barcelona, played for big clubs. He wasn't getting paying peanuts. So what are we talking about by an individual assessment? And can they actually tell anybody no and not get sued?
Yeah, great question. And that goes directly to the bylaw, which says before initial collegiate enrollment, an individual may compete on a professional team provided the individual does not receive more than the actual necessary expenses. Well, what are the necessary and actual expenses you need to survive? Travel, lodging, equipment, meals, those type of things that the day-to-day living necessities require. They are needs, not wants. And so then when you compare them to wants and things that would arguably violate this actual and necessary clause, we're talking about things like a signing bonus. We're talking about a luxury apartment or luxury vehicle. We're talking about a salary. We're talking about stipends that far and exceed actual and necessary expenses. So when you're looking for rules and you're looking for clarity on this, that's why important that leadership steps forward and offers statements to clarify issues such as this. And this statement by Charlie Baker, I think, was long overdue. And perhaps back on September 23rd, when Theory, a player from Santa Clara, who's now playing with Santa Clara, came down from the G League, and that didn't cause national controversy, so to speak, like this one did, because he was a former NBA draft pick. But this has been going on now for several months. And in fact, within the past couple weeks, BYU, Washington, and Oklahoma have all been using in-season transfers, and they're now playing within the past couple of days. So this isn't a new issue, and I think there's going to be more athletes and really coaches trying to challenge this bylaw.
So Mitch, if I could ask, so you're saying that Enes Kanter wasn't allowed to play because he won above the $30,000, and
I'm
that's why
saying
he wasn't allowed to play.
Correct. The
They deemed
NCAA
that.
said.
So
Yeah.
So what's the number they're coming up with right now that says that somebody's going to be eligible or not eligible? Because wouldn't that kid have made? So they're saying he didn't even make 100,000 playing overseas. They're saying
And
he
that's the
made less
question.
than that.
And that's the ultimate
Because
question.
the thing
really.
that gets me, the thing that gets me is the other thing that's happening over there is, are you really getting a real contract? The right contract, what he's really signed. I don't know anybody that goes overseas and doesn't have a nice apartment and get a car, and they get that when they go over there. So I don't know what the number is here, because I know our kids are getting paid quite a bit of money over here. So what is that limit you go to that allows that person to be eligible?
Good question, Coach Roberts. And I don't think there is a magic number, so to speak. I just think the NCAA, in this case, from Enes Kanter, found that 15 years or so ago, he received up to $30,000. You could receive up to $5,000, and that could still violate this actual and necessary threshold. And so I agree with you. Are you telling me that this young man from played overseas, was drafted, and now is coming back down to Baylor, did not at any point throughout his professional career receive actual and necessary expenses above and beyond what is allowed? That's what's going to be tough to prove on this case-by-case basis. And I think schools are going to have to be able to prove to the NCAA that they did not exceed those expenses. And how you do that, whether it's evidence, whether it's proof of photographs, whether it's pictures, and obviously contracts, are really within the eye of the beholder as to what holds true in those contracts. And so I think it's going to be really difficult to understand going forward what players received 2 years ago, 5 years ago, to either disqualify them for playing NCAA basketball.
Mitch, if I may, the thing that surprised me about this is it didn't seem like I didn't assume they were still applying this same rubric, if you will, in the new model we're working, because most of our players are making, if you're at a high major level, you're making six figures, and a lot of guys are making, a number of guys are making seven figures. Like with this new model, I didn't think they were trying to apply that to the influx, especially of European pros that have come over here in this offseason in particular, has been a higher number than we've seen. And for certain teams, we got an Illinois background here for LaTulip right now. That's one of the teams using a lot of these guys in this manner. Are you telling me they would have had to do the same analysis for those guys to have their eligibility? Are they now just bringing this up to look at Najee's situation, and now we're going to assess it like this going forward? Because I was surprised to think this is still something they could even try to do, given the current market dynamics we're working in now that didn't exist before.
Yeah, I think it's really tough for the NCAA to tell and determine what type of club team or what type of professional team these athletes are on when they're on their overseas teams. You know, you got to keep in mind some of these athletes are joining these professional club style teams at the age of 13 or 14 years old. Mm-hmm. They don't have that same collegiate model over there. They don't have that same, you know, kind of educational structure that we do from grade school, middle school to high school on, and then on to college. And so I do think these influx of players that are coming from overseas, it has not been proven exactly what they have been making growing up as kids. Because again, if you're receiving a certain dollar amount from a professional contract, that in and of itself, according to NCAA bylaw 12.2.2.2, that bars you from playing. That essentially prohibits you because that is considered a professional athletics team. And so, you know, that's what this comes down to right now is, have you received professional fees, professional services above and beyond these actual necessary expenses that would disqualify you from playing at the Division I level? That's the key to all this, and that's why we're going to see different outcomes from different players. Now, I'll backtrack a little bit. Obviously, there was a report that turned out to be inaccurate within the past week or two regarding an NBA player on a two-way contract who actually logged NBA minutes. That's completely different. You've actually participated and completed a professional sport. There was obviously some level of contract negotiated in there, and you've agreed in writing or orally to professional terms. That appears to be different than what Najee ultimately experienced despite being drafted. And his case was amplified because of that, because he was an actual draftee, which is the first time ever the NCAA has dealt with this. You know, you got to keep in mind, we are in a whole new territory with eligibility, with college sports moving forward due to revenue share and NIL. And so what has happened the past 5 years, and Coach Roberts on this call has got more experience than any of us in the college coaching ranks, is arguably more than's happened in the previous 50 as far as changes, as far as adjustments that coaches have had to make, and really administrators, compliance officers at universities trying to adjust to this. There are presidents right now at universities, athletic directors at universities that do not know what to do or how to navigate this. And that's where part of that blame then shifts to the NCAA, because where is the leadership stepping up? These statements by Charlie Baker are important, but we need more of them. He needs to be coming forward, essentially calling out a national conference of college coaches to take place this spring or summer, giving people the peace of mind to say, no, we are going to get this figured out. That leads kind of the next step, the call for political action. Some sort of congressional intervention at some point is what ultimately people are hoping for.
And Mitch, let me ask you this, because everybody's talked about the CBA collective bargaining agreement, that could be where we're headed at some point. And so, and the reason I asked this in particular is because college basketball is in a unique position, given how global the game is compared to, let's say, football, right? How intertwined globally this game is, the different avenues that guys can come from in order to play college basketball. And given the scenarios in which we've seen American pros reverse course, whether it be through the G League or other avenues, we know football triggers a lot in the NCAA given the revenue. So my question is, as it pertains to the CBA, potential CBA, do you think this would be like a blanket CBA for all of the NCAA, or are you able to isolate and specify by sport?
I think CBA, which is the collective bargain agreement that Mike's referring to, is a long way away. And I say that because to have a CBA, you essentially need employees to ultimately unionize to form the CBA. And we are so far removed from student athletes at universities from becoming employees that it's nowhere near where I think people hope it is. And I say that because you cannot snap your fingers and form a CBA. And right now, whether it's in newspapers or on Twitter, everybody's calling for the CBA. But frankly, I don't know if everybody realizes the ramifications of having a CBA and what that actually brings to the table. Is, do athletes really understand if they enter into a collective bargaining agreement, that actually does cap their earning capacity? That actually does trigger other things as being an employee, other tax ramifications, other workers' compensation issues, other family medical leave type acts that actually come into play when you enter into a employee type status with a university. To answer your question, if it does ultimately get there, you can part and parcel this out. I don't think this would be a blanket NCAA CBA type waiver, because there's such a disparity with the non-revenue sports and really the Power Four football and basketball. And that's just the reality of it. You know, statistically, there's the numbers do not lie as far as where the revenue is coming from. And so to apply a blanket, collective bargaining agreement across the NCAA, frankly, would be unfair to a lot of athletes. And I don't think the NCAA nor the general public wants that. So what you could do is in some ways form what I would deem as a carved out collective bargaining agreement if you do not get congressional intervention in some other way. The ideal approach to all of this, I believe, would be some sort of conditional antitrust exemption from Congress that essentially says college athletes may coordinate in ways that would normally violate antitrust law if specific, athlete conditions are ultimately met. Basically, if you fail those conditions of the, that are placed on the athletes, then obviously it can be taken away. This would not be a blanket antitrust where it's just covered across the board. Now it's a free-for-all. I think what happens with no exemption at all, and we continue down this path, is every rule is going to be litigated. You'll continue to see lawsuit after lawsuit because people are trigger happy to file lawsuits, and everybody wants to represent the next athlete to take down the NCAA. NIL will remain pay for play, which it currently is right now. Transfer limits become unenforceable. And so you see this path that I'm going down if nothing does happen. And I think there needs to be some level of action taken, whether it is through the NCAA and the college coaching body coming together, or it is through Congress. Why do I think conditional discharge ultimately works the best? Is because it restores antitrust stability and athlete rights. Therefore, conditions that could be required as a part of this are, you do actually have a revenue sharing agreement in place. You have minimum compensation floors where you feel like there's uniformity across the board. There's independent enforcement. And so those are the type of things that I think people are looking for. And it's essentially, it encourages collective bargaining within that. Will we ultimately get there? I don't know. I still know we have a long ways to go.
When you mentioned the collective bargaining piece, I mean, you guys just touched on it, like who you even bargain with, who the body is, because even the disparity within men's, just like to men's college basketball, the disparity between the Power Four, West Coast Conference schools, Patriot Leagues, it's just so massive that who you actually bargain with on the other side of the table, that remains to be seen. So you did mention that the Congress, they've been asking for Congress for years, and I will give you guys a quick aside on this. Disney put together something in the spring, and I was supposed to go down there and host a meeting with all the four commissioners, would have one panel, and the next was be Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz is the head of the committee that's going to sponsor this bill, the SCORE Act. It's supposed to go there, and there's a bunch of ADs, there's presidents in the building. It's a nice Washington, 500 people in this building. Cruz no shows, guys, just no shows right before. So the four power conference commissioners are up there selling their stuff. He doesn't come. So that shows me where this fits in their priorities. I get it. I understand where we are in the country and society. I get it. Problem is, if you're looking for a body that has a 15% approval rating to bail us out, that doesn't seem likely, and especially when they have bigger fish to fry. I say that as a long preamble to be like, there are some people that think they want to vote on the SCORE Act in the next couple of weeks. Would that act put in place the antitrust statute, I guess, if you're saying, within that, and allow the NCAA to govern the sport again? Because with a thing like Najee, what we're talking about, I imagine with all the different money that's out there right now, everybody will be suing to get guys that were in the G League to come back to the league and back to the college. And if they're kicked out and they're allowed, they're going to sue again. So does the SCORE Act, the one that's actually been proposed, solve this thing?
Well, let me quick address the Ted Cruz issue, because, just recently on X, he did come out within the past week or so and claim action needs to be taken right now. He's basically beating the war chest. And so everybody says
he said that the
things,
week before we were down there too, Mitch.
Show up. Where's the action? And where's this actually coming into play? And so, yeah, to address your question, I think the SCORE Act has positives to it, but it ultimately doesn't, to me, solve the golden issue. Because you cannot have, a football union at school A, a basketball union at school B, and no union at school C. And again, the SCORE Act, does it actually apply to everybody when you have the non-revenue sports so distinct and separate and apart than the actual high-revenue earning sports? The ultimate model that could come into play here is in some way, shape, or form is men's basketball and football in some ways either becoming affiliates or hybrids of the university in some way, shape, or form in order to still fit within the guise of the university if that's what you're trying to do. But these sports are so far removed, especially at the Power 4 level, than the rest of their campus that it's becoming laughable. I mean, the majority of the football players on Power 4 rosters are making more than tenured professors. And so you see where this is ultimately going, that people need to come to grips with the reality of where the revenue is really, really coming from. And obviously for basketball, which is what we're here to talk about, the golden goose and the golden egg is the March Madness tournament. And that's a multi-billion-dollar industry that generates a ton of money. People don't want to see, the smaller schools, the Columbias and the Lehighs of the world, ultimately not be a part of that, Cinderella story. But at some point, too, we have to realize that these TV market deals that are actually holding these conferences together and allowing this revenue share to happen is not being equally divided amongst all Division I schools. I mean, we know that. And so I think from that standpoint, as far as how far apart these schools are and how far apart these sports are, is we've got a long way to go to actually get clarity on where this is going in the next 2 to 3 years, because nothing will be solved in the next 3 months, the next 6 months, no matter how much people want to shout into the social media, atmosphere.
Well, Mitch, we appreciate your time, definitely your brain, because we needed that here to help in words to explain what's going on here. So thank you very much, man. We appreciate you joining us here in the Field of 68. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we will dive into some hoops.
See you guys.
Thanks, Mitch. Good seeing you, buddy.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Are you trying to follow everything happening in college basketball? It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for recruiting news, game analysis, portal updates, and much, much more. For just $50 a year, you get access to the same information that your favorite coaching staff is subscribed to. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help. Make sure you subscribe today.
Welcome back into the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM. Michael LaTulip, Norm Roberts, myself, Dalen Cuff. Guys, thanks to Mitch Gilfillan to come on and kind of break down the James Najee situation. We are going to get to the hoops in a second. I did just want to ask one question to each of you, and I start with you, Coach Roberts. It's less about the reaction to Najee being on the Baylor roster in the middle of the season. What did you make of – but let's just back up for a second. Guys have been cheating for years before this stuff was legal with the money. Okay, we've heard and certain coaches would out other coaches privately, never publicly. Were you surprised at all that Tom Izzo kind of went directly at Scott Drew in the manner that he did and kind of essentially calling him out?
I wasn't surprised because, Coach Izzo's going to say what Coach Izzo wants to say, and he is always outspoken. But I did think he handled it in the right way, saying, hey, I want to talk to him and find out his reasoning on doing it. Now, obviously, Coach Drew did this because, I think a lot of people don't know the big kid Bodo, that Justin Bodo, who they recruited, to come and play for them has now been injured and he's out for the season. So they needed another big guy. They needed another big guy. They're one of the smaller teams in all of the Big 12. So I can see a need for that guy. Not that they just went out to do it. There is a need for him. And I kind of understood what Scott Drew was saying in terms of if it's legal and we can do it, why wouldn't I do it? You know, I got to do what's best for my program and my team to be as good as they possibly can be, because let's not get this thing twisted at all now. We are in the business of winning, winning games. That's what basketball coaches are paid to do, win games. So he's just trying to do what's best for his program.
And I don't fault. Yeah, I'm not faulting him, because this is by the letter of the law. He can do it, and your point is dead right. The remit here for high major basketball players in particular, coaches in particular, is just to win the games. You got to win games and field a team. That team's defensive rebounding is a big issue. Their interior defense, big issue. Well, this guy may help really solve both of those. Mike, the other question I'll ask to you is, given that this seemed obvious, we had the London Johnson thing where he's in some situation coming down from the G League, but he's going to play next year at Louisville. That caused Coach Izzo's ire, 5-6 weeks ago. We had a very similar conversation. Should we have seen this coming, that this was, going to happen midseason? Why are we all taken by surprise, or were you taken by surprise?
I wasn't taken by surprise, because you guys have mentioned Illinois. Illinois added a pro at the midseason deadline about a week before Najee got there. So it's just the fact that the headline was former NBA draft pick, because the Najee situation was unique. I think we all know that at this point. I think the headline is what it is, and that's what gets people really riled up about it. But it was a draft pick, yes, but more of a draft and stash type of guy, a guy that, hadn't logged an NBA minute. I know he played in the NBA Summer League, but probably wasn't ready for the NBA at 17 years old, 18 years old, whatever he was at the time. Still don't think he's ready for the NBA now. So it's one of those things where if it's Baylor adds backup 5-man, it's not the same tune. So it remains to be seen the type of impact that he has. I think people are maybe overestimating a little bit the type of impact that he can have for that Baylor team. They'll be better. They'll be deeper. That's for sure. But I also think, just as an aside, I want to acknowledge there's been a lot of catastrophizing. The sport is cooked and this and that. I want to acknowledge one thing, that the on-court product of college basketball right now, and I talked about this before the season, just the talent level, it's as good as it's ever been because of NIL, because you can get Yaxel Lindenberg and some of these other guys back into the sport. The product on court is phenomenal. How we get there and the mechanics of how we get there is what needs to be altered. So how do they do that without, making a mockery of the draft deadline? How do they do that without icing out high school recruits? That's going to be the challenge too. And I know Mitch just touched on it. We're far away from a CBA, but even when you get to that point, you got players, you got agents, you got administrations, you got coaches, you got all these different parties that you're trying to come to, an agreement on. That's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, and I think that's if I'm a G League guy that's, say, 20, 21 years old, I'm calling my agent right now. Get me on a roster, bro, because the money is better, the lifestyle is better, it's easier. Yeah. Everything about it is easier in college basketball than is grinding it out in the G League, making less money and playing in a hyper-competitive league where everybody's trying to get to the most exclusive league in the world. And the last part I'll say on this, and I think that the problem is, you mentioned all those factors in this, LaTulip, and you have a vacuum of leadership. The NCAA cannot run their own institution. And bear in mind, they used to run it with an iron fist to the point where, excuse me, how much cream cheese we had on a bagel could affect eligibility. What summer leagues you played in. I mean, Coach, you remember that. You guys, you remember that? Trying to figure out, was my summer league permissible? And if I played in the wrong league, can I not hoop when the season comes up? That's what we were dealing with 5, 10, 15 years ago. Now you're in the place where money is running rampant, and the pendulum has swung so far to where you can be a pro that used to be ostracized if you chose that route. And now you can come back, and not just come back for a year, not come back for 2 years, but he got 4 years of eligibility. That's where I think people are up in arms about, is the institution, and saying, what the hell is going on with the institution? Not so much Scott Drew and Baylor, not so much James Najee for sure. It's what is going on with our institution. And if we're going to lean into being a farm system, then let's set up the system to do that. If we're going to try to be the collegiate system that you once were, that doesn't exist. So how do we adjust for something in the middle if that's what you want to be? Or let's go all in the other way. And if that's what you're going to do, let's just do it and let's figure the thing out. Because right now we're living in this weird, middle space that's nobody knows. The coaches especially don't know what are the rules, how are we governed, how do I get my best team? They don't know. Anyway,
one of the things that gets me is, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we were saying, hey, let's get past COVID and let's get back to college players being 21, 20 years old, and that's up. And we're going the opposite way. We got guys 28 years old playing, 26 years old. Hey, I'll be honest with you. I was a pretty darn good player at 23, 24 years old now. I was pretty darn good. You know what I'm saying? And to me, it's really hard to put a team together. The way that college basketball was at one time, which I always loved. And that's the reason why people would always ask me, hey, do you want to coach in the pros? And I would say no, because I enjoyed college, because it was the development of kids over a period of time, seeing them be successful, helping them through their lives, all that stuff. That whole situation is over. That's gone. Everything now is a 1-year transaction, period. Okay? So either I'm happy and I'm going to stay, and if I am happy and I'm going to stay, and you pay me a certain amount of money this year, I'm renegotiating next year to get more money so you can keep me. And if not, I'm going to leave. And I would say on the flip side with coaches, they bring you in, you play down a level, or you don't play as good. Bottom line is they don't want you to be there next year. They want you to be gone too. So there's no loyalty. There's really no commitment from anybody except for 1 year, 1 season. That's the only commitment. 1 year, 1 season.
Yeah. Well said. All right, let's get to some hoops now. So the ACC kind of kicked off their league season. They had played some league games in December, like every other high major league has. But now we are here. We are in the thick of league play, week in and week out. We're going to have league games pretty much starting tonight. Florida State fell to North Carolina in Chapel Hill. And Mike, I'll start with you. When you looked at Carolina's game, they started slow, battled back, controlled it in the second half. Caleb Wilson was outstanding yet again, especially the first half when they struggled. When you look at this Carolina team, what do you think their ceiling is? What do you look at this team and think, where can they get to?
Well, I think they have a high floor because they have one of the premier front courts in America, and that was on display again tonight. And I think those two continue to their production. And Vasar, I mean, we'll get to Caleb Wilson, but Vasar, rough first half, finishes with 12 and 12 in a matchup that honestly wasn't really great for him. It's a team that switched. They front the post. They got backside help, and then they try to pull you out in the perimeter on the other end. So he's got a guard in space, and he stuck with it. And it was he was a big reason why they pulled away late in that second half. So I think their margin for error is maybe a little smaller than a Duke or Louisville, but there's no reason why North Carolina can't compete for an ACC title because of that floor that they have with that front court. Questions, of course, with the backcourt and maybe some of the shooting and how stable that is as the conference slate goes on. But man, I mean, I can't wait to talk about Caleb Wilson because that dude. Just I keep having to rework how I project him as a player, not only this season, but what he's going to look like as a pro. He's unbelievable.
All right, well, you compose yourself. Coach Roberts, if you want to go on about Wilson, go ahead. Like, this is the time. Go ahead. Tell us what. Or tell me about Carolina. Tell me about Wilson. Whatever you want to go. Go wherever you want.
Hey, he is fantastic because he affects the game in all ways. Defensively, transition running, offensive rebound. He's a double-double every single night. He's able to score from 15 feet. He can shoot it a little bit. He attacks the basket. He gives them so much energy that it gets the whole team playing at a different level. And tonight, Vassar didn't really do anything for him. And early on, and it was him who got him out to somewhat of a lead. Now, I think playing against Florida State helped them some because, You know, I had never seen a team that'll drive all the way to the basket and throw it right back out to shoot a three, a guarded three. I mean, they're going to shoot 40 threes a game. I think they average 36 for the season. They're second to Alabama, but they're going to shoot 40 threes, and they're only shooting, I think, at 31%, maybe 32%. So they're not a great shooting team, which led to long rebounds, led to transition, allowed, you know, Seth Trimble to get out there and attack in the way that he can attack athletically to the basket. I do think Derek Dixon is going to be, I know they're playing the kid Kion right now, but Derek Dixon may be better at the point for them because he shoots it a little bit better than Kion has, at least to this point, and he's got more size to him. I think the thing that could hurt Carolina is the shooting. When they play against teams that are just as big, like a Duke, Duke is just as big, just as long, just as athletic, if not more. I think they could have some problems that maybe you can have a guy guard Caleb. You don't have to give so much help, and they got good size, and now force those guys on the perimeter to shoot the ball. I think that could hurt Carolina against better teams.
Yeah, I think you're dead on there, Coach. I mean, Evans, he made 5 threes tonight, but he is up and down too sometimes. His misses sometimes are really bad misses, and he's gotten in his head through the course of the season. He's been really up and down. I think Dixon provides more play creating. He can make a shot, so that's important. But as a team, they need to collectively make threes. Wilson did have one play that exemplified everything. I think they cut it to a 3-point game to start the second half. He had that offensive rebound where he came from the weak side, goes across the other side of the lane, out hustles everybody, gets the rebound, turns and whips it right to Vesar for an and one. From that point on, they control that. That was those are pivotal plays in the course of a game. That his motor, his competitiveness, his understanding of the game, and then all the physical tools to go with that. Like the kid, I can't say enough good things about him, and I think Carolina is going to be right there with Duke to win the championship in that league. Louisville went on the road to a Cal team that shout out to Coach Mattson. They started the year real well, but a different class of team they played, even out with Mikel Brown. Coach, whenever you lose a guy of Mikel Brown's stature, are you a believer that this team is getting a lot better without him, and when he comes back, this team can even be that much more different? Or being a freshman, it would behoove him to be in all these games?
I think hopefully he'll get back healthy and he can be in the games. But it does help your team. You get to play without him. You can see if he gets in foul trouble or something. Kansas is going through that right now with Darren Peterson, and it's really helped their team get better. I do think they've got such older guys and talented guys that if Mikel Brown's not there, they're going to be okay because Conwell is playing out of this world. He's playing really, really good form, and they're getting score. I think they got scoring tonight from Woolley and everything. So they have a lot of options to score, and they've got a lot of people. Hadley is a great role player. He can do a lot of different things for them, and I think the kid Farouz played well for them as well. So I thought Louisville tonight, I thought was really good early on defensively. I thought they really got out and guarded, and that's going to be a key to them. Can their defense match their offense? Because everybody talks so much about them offensively, but can they guard and protect the rim, and those things is going to be the key to how good they can be when they play against Carolina, the Dukes, and the other good teams in the country.
LaTulip?
I think the importance of it too, both of you guys know this, but without your point guard, cross-country trip, starting off conference play, and regardless of what direction Cal goes from here on out this season, if you want to vie for a regular season title, these are the ones you got to win. Even when you're shorthanded, these are the ones you got to take care of. And so I think that Tennessee game, the first game that Mikel Brown was out, you could tell. I mean, Louisville had to go to a ton of set actions because he was their play finisher, and he was the one that set the table for them. So they had to go a ton of set actions against Tennessee. I thought Cal showing some zone tonight allowed Louisville to get a little more free-flowing offensively. Khalifa comes in. He's diamond dudes up. But the other important piece, too, is when you get a guy like Woolley, and Conwell was phenomenal, as he's always been. He's funny, man. Like, he doesn't play like he's been a 4-year, 4-school guy. I don't know how else to explain that, but he plays like a guy that has been somewhere for 4 years. And he plays like that everywhere he goes, which is a credit to him. But Woolley specifically, this is the beauty of having a guy who was a prolific scorer at Kennesaw State come in, play his role with Mikel Brown, scale down his game, and then when Brown's out, here's this prolific scorer that can scale back up and help you win games. That is, like, there's teams that just don't have that because their depth pieces maybe aren't used to having to contribute at that level. So that's what I saw from Louisville tonight, in addition to what you talked about, Norm, just the paint protection specifically in the first half. I thought they guarded the ball well. They pressured. They kept it out of the paint. I think Cal only had two or four paint points in that first half. So really phenomenal road win. And the hope is that you can knock out this West Coast trip early with a sweep and then head back home. I'm sure they'll get a couple games at home to try to build on this in conference play. That was a really impressive win tonight for Louisville.
Michael, stay with you on this. When you look at the league at large, Duke is still the betting favorite to win the conference. Louisville and UNC are there. Louisville, by some books, is slightly ahead of UNC. How do you see it? Is it those three? Can Virginia get in the mix? Like, what do you see from a conference champ standpoint? Who are the real contenders when we're looking at this in late February?
I think it is those three. I think Virginia is going to be there knocking on the door. I mean, I think they can finish, in that 4 or 5, maybe 3 spot if something happens to Louisville or North Carolina. But yeah, I mean, I think Duke's probably still the favorite. I think, and North Carolina, mentioned just the floor they have with their front court. But I will say too, with Louisville, depending on how much time Mikel Brown misses, it's obviously good to see these guys get more time, Woolley, get more confident, but then you are integrating while you're in stride in conference play, you are integrating another, like a big piece back into it, who's really high usage, who obviously does a lot for your team, but then roles have to be kind of figured out again. And so I expect a Pat Kelsey coach team to weather that type of storm. But that's the question is what is the reintegration of Mikel Brown look like, and can they kind of stay in stride? If they do, then I think, again, it's a 3-horse race there at the top with Carolina. And I didn't touch on this in the Carolina portion of this, but those two bigs, I mean, it's when you look at the numbers, even like analytically, it's not great when Vesar's off the court. When Wilson has to slide to the 5, it's not good. It changes things for them offensively. They can't play that buddy ball. So how much mileage can you get out of that group, and can they kind of go the distance throughout conference play? If they do, and they can, then they'll be right up there. But like I said, 3-horse race, I think, up top.
Coach, you agree?
I do agree. I think Virginia can upset any of those teams now. I think Virginia's pretty
100%.
good. The way they play, they got some veteran guys. They can shoot it. They can score inside with the big foreign kid. I like Virginia a lot. I do think Carolina, the key is Carolina doesn't have a whole lot of depth in the front court. They don't. So if Vassar gets in foul trouble or Caleb gets in foul trouble, that is going to hurt them quite a bit. Where Duke's a bit deeper, with their team and their rotation. So that's going to be a huge key for Carolina, is that those guys stay out of foul trouble. And they really haven't, if I'm not mistaken, they really haven't played against any teams that really throw it inside a lot and attack, except for Michigan State. Except for Michigan State. That's the only team that throws it inside a lot that I think Carolina's actually played, and Kansas. So that's going to be a big key. Can those big guys stay out of foul trouble?
Well said, Coach. All right, we got to hit a break. When we come back, we're talking Big East. What is an amazing comeback for Seton Hall or a massive meltdown for Marquette? Next on After Dark.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season 1 for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. If you're not a member of the Field of 68's On3 community, make sure to go check us out. Get access to all of Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster's written content, including coaching carousel breakdowns, info on who is and isn't entering the transfer portal, insider recruiting information from none other than Joe Tipton, X's and O's analysis of all the teams in college basketball, and access to our message board community. A 7-day trial costs you $1. The Field of 68 on 3. Get the scoop.
Back into Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM. Norm Roberts, Michael LaTulip, I'm Dalen Cuff. Guys, Seton Hall and Shaheen Holloway, they continue to do it. They're down, and it looks like they're out against Marquette. Coach, I'll go to you first. Marquette finishes this game. I should say Seton Hall finished this game on a 15-2 run on the road to beat Marquette team that we all thought would be in the top 4 or 5 of the Big East or in the mix. They've gone the other way. Seton Hall's been the surprise of maybe the country right now, the way they've performed. Was that a credit to Seton Hall with the comeback, or did Marquette just melt down at home?
I would say that's a credit to Seton Hall. Seton Hall, though, those guys played tough. They played tough, and they brought guys in off the bench that were playing more than the starters. I think they did a great job, especially in the end of that game, defending. They guarded. If you saw on the sideline one time, Shaheen was talking to his little point guard, and he told him, "I want you to bluff and get back. You don't have to get all wet." And he was trying to show him how to do it. And then there was a key play that a guy bluffed and got back to the shooting, missed the shot, and they got the rebound back. And he didn't overcommit. And because you knew that Marquette was trying to drive it more than shoot it. And I thought they did a good job of guarding, and they were unbelievable on the glass. Unbelievable rebounding the ball. Going after, I think one guy had 20 rebounds and Payne and those things. So I thought they did a great job of attacking at the end of the game, getting the ball in the right people's hands, and making plays when they had to. And then on the defensive end, they just shut them down. They shut Marquette down. Marquette it's probably the least talented team they've had in years. And a lot of it may be because they're young. They are young. But they don't have guys that in the past could just make a play. You don't have a Kolek out there. You don't have guys that in the past just made shots and made plays. So if they're not scoring off of their defense into transition, they're going to struggle on the half court. And I actually thought Gold, the big kid, and Parham played really good. Their two bigs played really, really well for them, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, look, winning on the road. I don't care who you're playing. Winning on the road in conference play is tough. And so what you don't want to do if you're Seton Hall is give a team that has struggled offensively all year easy looks. And they didn't do that tonight. They found a way to continue to make it difficult for Marquette. And to your point, Norm, you're right. I mean, who is the guy for Marquette that this thing can really orbit around? Because they've had that guy for years. And Chase Ross is a really good player. I just think Chase Ross is a guy that is best when he can play off of guys, when somebody else can kind of push the pace and he can run the floor and catch and transition, stampede dribbles on the weak side, second side, third side. That's where Chase Ross, I think, is at his best. And so I think the role allocation's tough because it's just they're missing that guy. And look, like every school would want a Kolek, every school would want a Cam Jones, but that's been the hallmark for Marquette over the years. And even going back to the Buzz days, the Crean days, like the strong wing play that they always had. It's just that's lacking now, just all around talent wise. And so Seton Hall coming on the road and being able to kind of shut the water off last 6 minutes, Marquette didn't have a field goal. And so making life difficult on them. And if you're Seton Hall, you got to have a chip on your shoulder, right? We've talked about on the show, like who's fooling us, who's the 12-2, 13-2 team that's fooling us. And you got a chance in the Big East. We'll get to it with Butler and Creighton, I'm sure, you got a chance to stack wins and try to just see if you can get an at-large bid. Right? I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is try to stack those wins. You're not going to get the quality wins, but you can get the volume if you can stack them together in the Big East.
Yeah, I will say that I don't think there were teams that I saw play more to who they are than the end of that game. Like Shaheen's team, they are tough. They are together. I mean, Stat McRae had injury issues in the first half. To your point, Coach, he wasn't playing some critical possessions late in the game. He wasn't even in the game. Like they will play for each other with a physicality and a belief that we're going to take this thing to you and you have to take it from us. And the sad part for Marquette is what they did to get control of the game is they were getting the ball off the rim. They defended well from about the 14-minute mark to about the 6-minute mark, and they were blowing up the court. And they were attacking, scoring in transition, and they were comfortable. And the game was played that way. When it grinded in a half-court game, and they were getting pressed, and shout out to my guy Fonz Wells said it three or four times in the broadcast, they should keep attacking. Even when they were up 3 with 2 minutes to go. You broke the press? No, go score. Go score. It's like they were trying to survive and wait it out with a team that's going to make you take it from them. And they weren't able to do that. Their half-court offense has been an issue all year. I get it, no Sean Jones. You got a freshman point guard in there that made some great plays, also made some really, really questionable plays late, had a really bad turnover late in that game. And once they got the lead, you felt the whole building collapse. And Seton Hall felt like we're winning this game in the final minute. And they did. I mean, credit to Shaheen. It's a big bounce-back game, too, because coming off that loss to Villanova, it seemed like, all right, well, is the magic gone? And then they get a road win against Marquette. That was impressive, to say the least. Let's go to Creighton and Butler. Creighton's won 3 straight. Shout out to Coach Mack. Changes his lineup, a couple games ago. Takes out Harper less minutes, Graves less minutes, and they've seen results. So, Coach Roberts, what have you seen different about Creighton tonight against a very game Butler team and a well-coached team by Thad? That what have you seen from Creighton in the last couple weeks? That do you feel like they may end up being the team that we thought they were before the season, which is probably the 3rd best team in that league?
They totally changed what they were. And I thought early on when you saw them playing, they were kind of soft. They played soft as a team. And I think he saw that and he said, we got to do something where we're tougher, or at least put some guys on the bench and get them to understand we got to be tougher. And Swartz has played unbelievable for them. He's given them, a guy that can score the ball, a guy that can make plays, all those things. They've got guys out there that first unit really likes playing with each other. They said it on the telecast, and what it's done is it's allowed them to obviously make their bench better, with some of the guys that are now coming off the bench. Dix is an underrated playmaker. He makes plays off the dribble. He can pass it. He actually moves his feet really well defensively. Green is playing terrific for him because he gives him kind of a physical presence, even though he's only about 6'7". He's tough and he's strong. Trout has played well for them. The guy that's probably hasn't played as well for them that they thought was going to be really good is the kid Freeman, the big kid. He really hadn't done much at all. He's just been okay. But I think they've changed who they were and they've made themselves a much tougher team physically, going after balls and guarding and those things. And I think it's helped them quite a bit. And I'm telling you, that Butler team, I've never seen a team rebound like that team rebounds. They go to the offensive glass like it's unbelievable. And they were able to withstand that and still win the game.
Yeah, I think about McDermott, and when you have a succession plan in place, when you can kind of see the end, you want to go out on your terms. And your back's against the wall and you make those changes. And Norm, you touched on it. It was more Swartz, it's more Trout, it's more Ty Davis, and some of these other guys. Owen Freeman was a guy, he's a Big Ten freshman of the year. He's a big time transfer and came over with Dix, and he played 6 minutes tonight because you're going to play guys that that allow you to have that continuity. And I think for Creighton this year, it's going to be by committee. It's going to be a different guy on a different night. It's Green Tonight, it was Swartz, the previous game. It was Dix the previous game. It was Trout the previous game. That's going to be how they're going to do it, is just by committee. But the thing that can't change, and you mentioned this as well, Norm, the toughness and the scrappiness. Like they don't have that anchor that they had in Kalkbrenner last year, where you could maybe make some mistakes on the perimeter, get beat off the dribble, and you had an air traffic control guy back there that could clean stuff up. That's not the case anymore. You have to be a lot more scrappier, and that's what they've done this year. And so that's got to continue throughout Big East play, because I'll make the same point for Creighton that I made for Seton Hall. It's like the stack and wins is important, because you're not going to get the quality in the Big East just based off of like high quad 1, quad 1A type games. You'll probably get it with UConn, with St. Jeff, a ton of other opportunities. So can Creighton find their way, like they did last year, to 15 conference wins? They're sitting at 3-0 right now, and we know, like, you get off to a good start in conference, that makes all the difference. So I like the 180 that we've seen from them. And it's funny, like, you go back last year, they were a team that they defended without fouling better than anybody in the country. And I thought with Kalkbrenner gone this year that would change. They're number one again. They're doing it again. So it's pretty amazing that they've maintained that identity despite the personnel changing.
Yeah, I think the thing about the stacking wins is it's imperative for them, though, too, because they did have high major. They had big-time opponents that they lost to, and not just lost some of those games. They got blown out in some of those games. And like a win like Oregon they had doesn't carry the same weight now. So they have to stack wins. I think they have capability to do that. But, I mean, talking to Coach Mack around the players era, he was clearly frustrated with his guy. Same thing, the toughness and the effort piece of it. And he kept saying, we got to get that right. That was his move to get it right. These guys, I don't think you guys are not hearing my message. I'm just going to move on to somebody else. A couple different guys, and they look different. It feels different, and I credit to him, because it's not easy to do that midstream and say, okay, we're going to course correct and maybe get less talented on paper, but we're going to have much better upside in terms of what we can do productively as a team. What you got, Mike? Let me ask
you this, Norm, as a coach, because we talked about this with when we talked about the NIL and guys leaving. It's a 1-year deal. When you're there on the bench, does that cross your mind at all in terms of how you coach, maybe even subconsciously, where it's like, do I get on a guy to the level I want to get on him, or will he leave after the season? Will he go? I mean, it's when I was there from 2012 to 2016, you at least had the deterrent of sitting out a year, where it's like maybe I will stick it out, because I don't want to redshirt, sit out a year if I transfer. So I'm wondering if that ever, even subconsciously, doesn't have to be into your mind, but into coaches' minds. Like, do you alter the way you coach at all, knowing that, or walk on eggshells a little bit more, knowing that could be a single comment that ends up sending a guy out the door the next, in the spring?
I don't think you do, especially for older coaches, established coaches. I don't think they're worried about that at all. I do think we've come to, and I actually had this discussion with somebody today. We have come to a situation now where, as an assistant coach, you used to have to deal with the moms and the dads and the uncles and calling you because Johnny's not playing or whatever. And I think now it's like Johnny's getting paid pretty good. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking to you about playing time. Not at all. My job is to win the games. That's my job. And I think it's come more to that with coaches now. And now, if you're not going to do what I ask you to do, I'm going to find somebody else to do it, because the ultimate thing is to win. It is to win. And you're here. I know we say it's not paid for play, but we all know what it is. And it's a bottom line business. And if you're not getting it done, I'm going to find somebody else who will get it done. I think the toughest thing, I think I've said it on the show before, the toughest thing for coaches now is to get a kid or an athlete who's struggling and not playing well to refocus, try harder to get on that court. Because the problem is they're making more money than they ever thought they'd make in their lives. And they're making. So what is the motivation? Back in the day, the motivation was get to the league, show people I can play, all that type stuff. That's gone now. That's gone now. So now there has to be more self-motivation within a kid. He's got to want it a little bit more because the people behind him are saying, don't worry about it. You're getting screwed. He's not playing you. You should be playing, all that. That's what they're hearing from their camp. And the bottom line is, I think coaches now are saying, hey, man, you play the way I tell you to play. You do the things we need to do to win. You see what it takes for us to win. If you're not willing to do that, I'm going to play Johnny. I'm going to play Billy. I'm going to play somebody else who will do it. So I don't think coaches worry about it as much. Maybe early in the year they worry about, I got to play this guy because he makes more money than another guy, and we paid him, so I got to give him every opportunity to show he could do it. But then now, when you get to this point in time in the year, hey man, I'm trying to win. We're trying to win. That stuff's gone now.
Coach, I think you make a great point too with the difference in age and security and success. With that comes some ability to say, do it my way or deuces. Because there are some younger coaches I've talked to that are trying to navigate this changing industry in their late 30s, mid 30s, early 40s, where it's like, I want to be here. I want to be sitting on the benches you've been, coach. I want to be you. So their fit in this world right now is really challenging because a lot of us came from a world where you do what the coach says or you sit the bench. Now to try to not live to your values, if that's what you're trying to negotiate, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it.
Last quick thing too, because I think Norm, you guys both bring up good points, but when things aren't going your way as a player, the incentive to stick with it and pick yourself up back off the mat, knowing that you could shut it down and just think about where you're going next season or get into the spring and then going into the portal. I think that's what gets lost sometimes. It's just, I'm always like a big believer of like how you do anything is how you do everything. So it doesn't matter. Like if this is how you handle this as a 20-year-old, it's probably going to be how you handle things as a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old until that gets changed. And then if you change it when you're 28, you're going to be wishing you maybe changed it a little earlier when you were 20. So it's a fascinating world, man.
Yeah, I think we'll look back and one of the things we'll say, guys made money, you got all this freedom, but were we teaching younger people the right thing through the process? That will story be written in about 2035, 2040. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for the afters too. Let's do it here on Field of 68.
These my DJ Burn shades I had for. That was like taking them into the depths of Alaska and just dropping them off.
The first person that's gonna die got to be one of the black guys. They're not gonna make it to the end of the movie.
That's like asking somebody, do they want to get a prostate exam or a damn gunshot wound?
Welcome back into the afters here on Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM. Norm Roberts, Michael LaTulip, myself, Dalen Cuff. All right, fellas, we will get to our toast here in a few minutes. Boys, Tyler, Degan, whoever's firing away questions, what do we got? Trevor, Degan.
All right, fellas. As always, YouTube chat, fire some questions away. We can ask those throughout this couple of minutes we have here. A few games, I guess, and teams that played tonight, fellas, I want to talk about. One is another ACC game we didn't get a chance to get to. Pittsburgh-Miami. Miami got a 7-point win there. Just your thoughts on the Hurricanes. Is this a team that you guys think can be a tournament team? Their two losses are to Florida and BYU. So just kind of your thoughts on the Hurricanes. And, yeah.
Coach, fire away first.
I really like the Hurricanes. I think Miami's got a good team. I think they've got a lot of guys that are versatile, that can score on the perimeter. Obviously, Renault, the big kid that transferred from Indiana, is playing out of this world for them. So it gives them an inside presence. I think Ernest Uday gives them a shot blocker, running the floor, big guy that plays with great energy. So I think they've got a chance to make some noise. I know we talked about other teams in the league, as Virginia, Duke, and Carolina, and Louisville. But I think Miami's a team that could give those teams problems. I would say they were a team that could be in that 5th, 6th spot as well when we're talking about the teams in the ACC.
Yeah, it does feel like that 5th, 6th spot is kind of wide open at this point, right? So what we'll see is as things materialize, especially with Miami. And Miami, they've been so good on the glass this year, and it's funny seeing Renaud come from Indiana, unique style playing next to Ballo, and then again he's playing next to Uday now, and it's still a guy that doesn't necessarily space the floor, and he's still finding a way to be productive at that 4 spot. And so the two big tests that they had in non-conference, obviously they fell to Florida, fell to BYU. In an ideal world, maybe you split one of those to give yourself some breathing room as you come into ACC play, but you're going to have opportunities compared to last year in ACC play to stack quality wins. I mean, we talked about Duke, we talked about Louisville, we talked about North Carolina, Virginia. You got a lot of more opportunities than you did in the past few years. So I think Lucas has done a great job there to start off. I think the influx of coaching in that league is what has bolstered that league and made it stronger. So I'm excited to see kind of where they go from here. I mean, you've won at this point. They've won 7 straight at this point. You go on the road to Wake Forest, you get Georgia Tech at home, and then you go on the road to Notre Dame. So all 3 winnable games before you go at Clemson. And they also don't play Duke this year, which is pretty incredible. I'm not sure. Is that because of the Lucas situation?
I know. I don't understand. Like, this is why I want to call Jim Phillips up and understand what happened here. Okay, it's an 18-team league. All right, there's 17 other opponents. Why in the hell do you not have to play Duke? I don't get how that works. But in their situation,
like it's the first time there's been a coach that's moved in conference.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand what happened. I don't know how that happened. Whenever that was brought to my attention, ACC Media Days, I thought my partner made a mistake. I was like, how is that possible? So I had to go through the schedule again. So I agree with everything you guys said. I think Malik gives them something different as far as like how to guard that guy. The size of them, I think Luke's has done a really good job. And in this league, though, when you're only playing these teams, you have a couple great opportunities, other teams that you're going to be competing in that middle tier, and you got to take care of the business in the back end because the back end has some weakness to it. And you get those, you stack those wins, you get a couple other big wins. I could see Miami easily in the mix for a tournament spot in that top 6 range in the ACC, in a much improved ACC. But those games against, Clemson, SMU, Wake, who's like kind of on the outside looking at, you got to win, 50% of those games, and you got to take care of your business in the back end. Maybe shock one of the big boys, and you're in business. All right, guys, what else you got?
All right, fellas. One last thing for me on the team that played tonight. I feel like we've talked a lot about them, but I want to touch on them again, is Nebraska. So they're still undefeated. They got a win against New Hampshire today. But just your thoughts on like the ceiling, I guess, for like the Cornhuskers. We did a team draft yesterday. Nobody picked Nebraska as a title favorite, I guess, technically is how we did it. But just kind of your ceiling for this Cornhuskers team.
Go ahead, Mike. What you got?
Yeah, I think, a couple of years ago, they ended up getting a double bye in the Big Ten tournament, meaning 4th. And so can that be their ceiling? I don't know. I mean, I think at the top of the Big Ten right now, you got Purdue, you got Michigan, you got Michigan State, you got Illinois. So I think it's gonna be tough to crack into that group. Certainly, it goes without saying it's an NCAA tournament team. I think they run, as far as obviously Dan Hurley and UConn, they run great action. I mean, Fred Hoiberg has them running tremendous action. I mean, they are so difficult to guard, especially if you don't have guys that are suited to. Like Illinois was a great example. Illinois, they have great positional size. That positional size isn't built to chase off-ball actions or to switch at the level they tried to switch against Nebraska. So they're going to present challenges for teams. And that's why, it's interesting. They play Michigan State next. Michigan State, who goes 2 bigs, is going to have to navigate that because we saw them in exhibition. I get it's exhibition. Michigan State struggled against UConn, chasing Caravan around, chasing Price Sanford in this situation, chasing Rink Mass, picking and popping and stuff. So they got Michigan State next on Friday, and I think that's a great litmus test. That one thing that I think people, and you could say the same thing about Creighton. That place, in Lincoln, Pinnacle Bank Arena, that place is awesome. My freshman year, they were in the old building, and then they had, they built the new building, and then my sophomore year we went in there. That place is beautiful. It's one of the coolest arenas in the Big Ten, and Nebraska fans, it's the only show in town, and whether it's Nebraska volleyball, football, basketball, like they show out and they will fill that place. So that's a legitimate home court advantage, which we know in the Big Ten, in any conference, that can raise your floor. If you can go 9-1, if you can go even 8-2 at home, split your games on the road. Now you're looking at 14-6, maybe 15-5 in conference. That sets you up to be a 3 seed, 4 seed, then maybe a 5 seed, 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. It's probably a little long-winded, but I like Nebraska. I think, just because I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten doesn't mean I don't think they can maybe find their way into a second weekend.
Coach?
I think Nebraska's terrific. Obviously, Herberg is a terrific coach, and they do run great actions. And I want to see what they do against some of the more athletic teams that are going to attack them athletically. And see how they perform in those ways. I think they're physical. I think they're going to guard. I think they can score the ball. But let's see what they do against, the Michigans. I wouldn't say Purdue's a real physical team. They probably match up better with them. Michigan State, as you said, Mike, it's true. That's going to be a good litmus test for them, because I actually think Michigan State's big guys do move their feet well. I think Kohler moves his feet. I think they do.
Lost coach. There we go.
And they withstand Michigan State throwing it inside and attacking them inside like that. Because if the big kid Wright gets in foul trouble, that changes their team too, and everything. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think they're a top 5 team, top 5 or 6 team in that league, without a doubt, I think.
And not to make this like a Michigan State Nebraska preview, but it is interesting just the way Nebraska guards. They have that low hold. They stick their guy head in the hole, and they load up on both sides. So post entry passes is going to be tough. They're going to double, and so can Michigan State. Shooting has improved a little bit this year, and everybody that plays Nebraska shoots over 33s. So how does Michigan State connect from the outside? That's going to be Ken Pom has Nebraska winning that game by 2. So Nebraska probably will be favored in that game. That's going to be a hell of a game in Lincoln.
Mike, you took the words out of my mouth. All I was going to say is this is a game where Nebraska's going to lay a 1.5. I'll tell you right now, blind, I'm laying the money with the Cornhuskers. There's no two ways about it. Pinnacle Bank Arena, the public is going to be crushing Sparty. Nebraska. What are you talking about, Nebraska? It's like when Duke used to go play at Castle Coliseum. Duke is always the dog there by like 2 or 3 points the last 5 years, minus I think the Zion year. Why? Because it's a tough place to play. Duke has played like crap. They lose that game all the time. This is a different animal for those people. Just give me the Cornhuskers minus 1.5. Take it to the bank. Don't bet the public. What else you got, guys?
That's all I got. So we'll do toast and we'll go to bed.
Coach, lead us off your toast, man.
All right, my toast is I'm going to go with Bud Clark from Seton Hall, the point guard for Seton. That guy may be the fastest guy in America with the ball in his hands. And him making that play when they were up 1 and getting to the basket and scoring that bucket gave Seton Hall all the confidence. And I think that ended the game right there. But that guy is a terrific player. So I would go with Bud Clark from Seton Hall.
There we go. Waters. LaTulip, do you have a beverage or waters?
Oh, man. Just
Waters
always
all around.
hydrated. Always hydrated, Alan.
All right, Mike, what you got, man?
You know what? I'm gonna go since I didn't get to get it off on the UNC segment. I'm going Caleb Wilson and just real quick. And I apologize, Dagan. I don't want to keep you, but Caleb Wilson, and Norm, you've coached guys like this, play with guys like this. Dalen, I'm sure similar. Maybe not exactly Caleb Wilson, but guys that have the tools where you're begging for them to have a consistent motor. You just want them to have a consistent motor.
Yeah.
That dude has that. And you can see you go from great player to superstar when you play with that consistent motor. And I thought, Dalen, you touched on it, that play he made in the second half. I thought even earlier in the game, it's 10-5. UNC hadn't scored in 4 minutes. He comes in the game, and that motor, it's KG like. It's, he checks in, and it's like the 2-minute stretch that completely flips the game, where he gets an and one, he gets the live dribble skip pass for the corner three to Powell. He forces a carry on the other end defensively. He gets out again, gets an offensive rebound, put back, and Florida State calls a timeout. This happened in like a minute 50. And it was like 6 straight Caleb Wilson possessions. So he changed the tenor of that game. He's so special. And I'd probably go Debanza at 1 at this point. Maybe at Peterson, probably splitting hairs. But Caleb Wilson is going to make some of these GMs at the top think twice about passing on him. He is phenomenal. So that's a long toast. Apologize, but it had to be said.
It's well said, my man. You said I play with guys like this, and I'm like, no, I haven't played a guy like that. Come on, man.
I had to clarify.
But you were dead right. No, because then I have like 9 different dudes in my head, and people's names we don't even freaking know because they had no motor. But it's the guys that you play with in the park when you're 16. You're like, what? This guy could be anything, but you can't.
Yeah, like,
all the other stuff, they
can't
can't do it. Play AAU with them. All the other stuff can't do it, and definitely not a motor like that. Like that dude he's a unique cat because of that. We praise Creighton, we praise Coach Matt quite a bit, but Jason Green had 23 points, 5 assists, provides toughness, had the best game of his career in terms of point production. But just that team is coalescing, and this guy just has had an opportunity and has taken it with both hands, makes plays on both sides of the ball, really fits well with what they're doing there and how they've kind of adjusted a little bit with the personnel. So my toast is to Green. Hell of a game, big win for the Blue Jays, 4 straight. Well, fellas, it's been a pleasure here on Field of 68 After Dark. For Norm, for Mike, I'm Dalen. We'll check you later.